I'm going to tell you the story of how my own daughter, the person I raised and sacrificed everything for, became a judgmental, snobbish stranger, and how one incredible, utterly unexpected night at a charity gala brought her entire world crashing down. It all centers around a beautiful dress, a phrase she spat out, a dress for poor people, and the moment she fainted when she realized who I actually was. I need to know, straight up, was I wrong for letting her live with this delusion for so long? Would you have done the same thing, knowing the truth would eventually hit her this hard? This story doesn't start with a gala. It starts quietly, 25 years ago, in a tiny apartment, with me working 2 minimum wage jobs just to put food on the table for my newborn daughter. Amelia. Her father had left before she was born, and it was just me. I was determined that Amelia would have the life I never did, a life of stability, comfort, and opportunity. I poured every ounce of my energy and every spare cent into her education and her future. Over the years, I managed to climb the corporate ladder, not through glamorous work, but through sheer, grinding effort. I became an executive assistant to a very wealthy, very old man who ran a powerful, old, money investment firm in the city. He was a brilliant, but incredibly demanding boss, and the job consumed me. It paid extremely well, though, well enough that by the time Amelia was in high school, we were living in a beautiful house in an exclusive neighborhood, and she was attending one of the best private schools in the state. I gave her everything, literally everything: designer clothes, a new car on her 16th birthday, tuition to a top-tier university. The problem was, she never saw the sacrifice. She only saw the results, and somewhere along the line, she started to believe that this life was simply her birthright. The main issue, the root of all this mess, was how I presented my work to her. My boss, Mr. Sterling, was fiercely private. He ran his entire operation out of a secluded private estate and had a strict policy: no employees, especially assistants, were to publicly discuss the specifics of their roles or the firm's clientele. It was a condition of my employment. For years, all Amelia knew was that I worked for a very important executive in finance. I didn't correct her assumptions when she started to fill in the blanks herself. She imagined I was a low-level manager, or maybe a glorified secretary. She definitely never thought of me as a key, trusted advisor, or, more importantly, someone with a significant, independent financial stake in the firm's success. A stake I'd been quietly building up over 20 years through stock options and a very generous, albeit secretive, profit-sharing agreement from Mr. Sterling. The less she knew, the easier it was to protect her from the intense, competitive pressure of that world. Or so I told myself. But in reality, my secrecy allowed her arrogance to bloom. Amelia's school friends, the children of actual old money families and successful entrepreneurs, were her primary frame of reference. She began to see the world, and me, through their privileged, often cruel eyes. If I showed up to a school event in my reliable but non-designer sedan, she'd flinch. If I didn't wear the latest handbag, she'd sigh dramatically. She was constantly embarrassed by what she perceived as my poverty mentality and my lack of ambition. Her judgments were always subtle, cloaked in concern, but they were devastating. "Mom," she'd say, "why can't you just dress a little nicer? It wouldn't kill you to look professional, like Tiffany's mom." I would just smile and say, "I'm comfortable, sweetheart. My job doesn't require a fashion show." This only fueled her belief that my job was boring and low-level. The real breaking point happened 2 months ago, and it's the specific incident that led to the night of the gala. I was cleaning out my closet, getting rid of some older, perfectly good dresses that I hadn't worn in years. Among them was a stunning emerald green silk dress. It wasn't a cheap knockoff. It was a high-quality designer piece I'd bought years ago for a major corporate function, but one that no longer fit. I had decided to donate it to a local women's shelter, an organization I volunteer with regularly, an organization that Amelia knew nothing about, because I knew her reaction would be exactly what it was. Amelia saw the dress draped over my arm as I was walking out the door. "Oh, that's actually kind of a nice color, Mom. Where did you get it?" she asked, already examining the cut. I told her I was taking it to the shelter downtown. She stopped cold. Her face went from curiosity to utter disgust. She pointed a perfectly manicured finger at the silk, and her voice dripped with condescension. "You're giving that away to them, Mom. You can't. That's a dress for poor people. It's not even a current, seasoned designer. It's practically a rag. Just take it to Goodwill or something. That's where the poor people shop, not those shelters. You're wasting time and gas." She snapped, then casually walked away, ending the conversation as if she had just given me sage financial advice. I stood there, holding that beautiful dress, feeling a cold knot of rage and despair form in my stomach. A dress for poor people. The irony was staggering. She had no idea how close she had come to being one of those poor people. If I hadn't worked myself to the bone, she had no idea that I, her poor mother, was currently wearing a plain blouse and trousers that cost more than her entire wardrobe combined, simply because I valued discretion and quality over flashy labels. It was in that moment, when she dismissed a genuine act of charity and sneered at the idea of helping others, that I decided something had to change. I couldn't just lecture her. She needed a reality check, a seismic shift in perspective that only a dramatic revelation could provide. I decided to let the lie unravel in the most public, most undeniable way possible. I was already planning on attending the annual Starlight Charity Gala, a massive, highly exclusive black-tie event that raised millions for local education programs. It was the social event of the year, hosted by the city's elite, and my firm, Sterling and Associates, was the primary sponsor. I had been asked, as one of the key people in the firm, to be on the host committee. I usually skipped the high-profile parts of these events, sticking to the shadows and the financial paperwork. But this year, I knew I had to be front and center. I was going to pull out all the stops. I went straight to my trusted friend and mentor, Mr. Sterling. I explained the situation, the years of my daughter's growing arrogance, and my decision to finally reveal the truth. He laughed, a deep, booming laugh that rattled the antique china in his office. "My dear," he said, "it is high time the little queen learns where the money actually comes from. You have my full support. Go make an entrance." He even offered me the use of his private box and his personal security detail for the night. I wasn't going to hold back. I commissioned a couture gown, an absolute masterpiece, discreetly chosen from a small, exclusive Parisian atelier, the kind of dress that whispers millions, rather than screams money. The day of the gala, Amelia was having a meltdown. Her friend, Chloe, the daughter of a prominent local judge, had somehow secured an extra ticket to the coveted young patrons section of the gala, the section where only the most established families' children were permitted. Amelia was ecstatic. She was showing off her very expensive, but off-the-rack dress to me. "Isn't it gorgeous, Mom? Tiffany's mom helped me pick it out. I just hope I don't run into anyone from your office. It would be so embarrassing if they saw you in your regular clothes." I just smiled, wearing a simple pair of jeans and a loose sweater, and told her to have a wonderful time. She kissed me quickly, already looking past me, rushing out the door. She truly believed that while she belonged at the gala, I was just the background character who paid the bills. So that's the situation I was in. I had a daughter who, because of my own overprotectiveness and my professional need for secrecy, had become a monster of entitlement, convinced I was nothing more than a glorified bookkeeper. She was currently inside the most important event of the year, socializing with the very people who were my peers, believing she was intellectually and socially superior to the woman who gave her everything, and I was about to walk in, not just as a guest, but as a host and a major stakeholder. Before I tell you what happened next the grand entrance, the moment the mask came off, and the utter chaos that followed, I want you to pause and comment below. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have continued to let her live the lie to spare her feelings? Or would you have dropped the bomb and forced her to confront the reality of your success? I took my time getting ready. My hair was styled by a top artist. My makeup was flawless, and then I stepped into the gown. It was a deep sapphire blue, with thousands of tiny hand-sewn beads that caught the light like starlight. It was a dress that commanded attention, but with an effortless, classic grace that Amelia's flashy dress could never achieve. I added a single, perfectly flawless diamond necklace, not a massive, gaudy piece, but a piece of such incredible clarity and history that its value was staggering. When I saw my reflection, I barely recognized myself. I wasn't the tired, work-worn executive assistant. I was the co-founder, the power broker, the woman who had helped build this empire. I arrived precisely 20 minutes after Amelia. I stepped out of the black town car, and the photographer flashbulbs went off immediately. My private security detail parted the crowd as I walked up the red carpet. I could hear the whispers of recognition, the low murmur of names, not mine initially, but the firm's. As I entered the main hall, the music seemed to drop a beat. The receiving line was composed of the city's mayor, a state senator, and the gala's honorary chairperson, all people I dealt with weekly, but never socially. They all paused their conversations to greet me with genuine deference. The first person I saw was Chloe's mother, Mrs. Peterson. She was a lovely woman, and she knew exactly who I was. Her eyes widened a fraction. "My dear," she said, pulling me into a warm embrace. "You look absolutely sensational. We are so honored to have you on the committee tonight. The Sterling and Associates contribution this year is just magnificent." As she said Sterling and Associates contribution, she placed her hand on my arm and guided me to the small podium where the list of primary sponsors was prominently displayed. My name, Mrs. E. Mitchell, co-chair, host committee, was listed right below Mr. Sterling's. It was exactly at that moment that Amelia, along with Chloe and a few of her other snobbish friends, walked past the podium. They were laughing loudly at some inside joke, probably about someone's boring parents. When Chloe's mother called out, "Amelia, sweetheart, come say hello to Mrs. Mitchell. She looks incredible tonight, doesn't she?" Amelia turned, still giggling, and then she saw me. Not her mom in the reliable sedan, but me. The woman on the arm of the mayor, being personally thanked by the state senator, wearing a dress that looked like it belonged on a runway in Milan, next to a sign with her name on it, declaring her a co-chair of the event and a primary sponsor of the entire evening. The laughter died in her throat. Her eyes scanned the sign, darting from the firm's name to my name, and then back to the gown. Her jaw dropped. The casual, entitled smirk she always wore evaporated, replaced by a look of sheer, dizzying panic and confusion. She looked at Chloe's mother, then back at me, as if trying to reconcile the woman who complained about a dress for poor people with the woman who was now the center of attention in a room full of power players. Mrs. Peterson, completely oblivious to the internal drama unfolding, leaned in conspiratorially. "Honestly, Amelia, your mother is one of the most brilliant and powerful women in this entire city. We would all be lost without her financial genius at Sterling and Associates." That was the final blow, the word powerful, the word genius, the lie I had let her believe for years, that I was a mere functionary, collapsed in an instant. Amelia's face went from pale to ghostly white. Her hand flew to her mouth, and she stumbled backward, knocking into a passing waiter. I watched her eyes roll back slightly, and then, slowly, dramatically, she sank to the plush carpet and fainted, completely overwhelmed by the reality that her boring, poor-minded mother was actually one of the most successful and discreet women in their circle. The aftermath was exactly what she deserved, but heartbreaking nonetheless. She was quickly helped to a private room by the staff, still mostly dazed. I went with her. When she finally came to, she just stared at me, her eyes brimming with tears of shame, not physical pain. "Mom," she whispered, the arrogance completely gone. Who are you?" I pulled up a chair and took her hand. I told her the entire truth, gently but firmly. I told her about the 2 jobs, the tiny apartment, the sacrifices, and the fierce need to protect her. I told her about Mr. Sterling's secrecy clause, and how I had allowed her own misconceptions to grow out of control. And then I had to bring up the green dress. "Amelia," I said, "that green dress, the one you called a dress for poor people, I bought that dress when I signed the papers that made me a partner in Mr. Sterling's firm. That dress represented my success, the end of my struggles. I was giving it to women who are just starting over, just like I did 25 years ago. You didn't just insult the dress, sweetheart. You insulted my journey and the journey of every woman who needs a helping hand." The shame was profound. She didn't speak for a long time, just cried silent, cleansing tears. She apologized, truly apologized, in a way I hadn't heard from her in years, for her arrogance, her snobbishness, and for being embarrassed by me. She didn't apologize for faints. That was just a natural, physical reaction to the shock of it all. The immediate consequence was a very quiet drive home. The long-term consequence was a total reset of our relationship. Amelia left the private school, voluntarily choosing to attend a local public college where she could focus on community service and sociology, rather than the networking she previously valued. She started volunteering at the women's shelter, the same one I'd tried to donate the green dress to. She still has a long way to go, but the girl who walked out of that gala was humbled and irrevocably changed. I, on the other hand, am no longer hiding. I kept the sapphire dress, and I wear it to every major function now. I realized that my success shouldn't be a secret to protect someone. It should be an example to inspire them. So, that is my whole story. A mother's secret, a daughter's snobbery, and a night where a fancy dress revealed the truth and changed everything. Tell me, was this the right way to teach her a lesson? Was I too harsh? Like this video if you were on my side and think my daughter needed that reality check. Subscribe for more stories about family drama and surprising revelations, and please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.